Welcome once again to America's favorite podcast. I don't know that it is, but it's kind of fun.
You got to believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. Be positive. Hey, Steve Jones.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you this morning.
Nice to see you back and up and at 'em, and nice clean shirt and all that. And if you'll notice, we don't just wear one shirt on this program. Every week.
Kind of a fashion show.
Yeah, it is a fashion show. It's a food review program and a fashion show.
Our brand. We have a brand.
We have a brand. Yeah, it's their brand. Anyway, did I say it's good to see you?
Yeah, it is good to see you.
Did I mention your name?
No.
HD Jones.
Yeah, you did.
Good to see you. Jason Ricciardi, it's also good to see you.
What's up?
And Jason shaved last night.
I did.
Yeah, but if you're watching, he's got it back. I think he said...
Actually, I shaved this morning.
He said the other day that he has a 5 o'clock shadow by 10 in the morning.
Yeah, that's probably pretty close to the truth.
I've been growing a goatee for 40 years.
I can almost see it. That's
about
pretty
a half
impressive.
inch there. No, I don't have a lot of facial hair there, but you do, so...
I have a little bit, yeah.
Corner to market. Anyway, did I mention your name, Jason Ricciardi?
You did, yeah.
Good to see you, too. I'm Mike the Baptist. This is a little program about Christian stuff. It's not irreverent. I wouldn't say irreverent, would y'all?
It's a little loose.
It's a little loose. Loose is a good word. That's appropriate.
We're fun.
We're just having fun. I've said it over and over. If you're not having fun and you're a Christian, you ain't doing something right. Yeah, something ain't right. So loosen up. Loose.
Of course, if you're having too much fun, you ain't right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's boundaries.
Yeah. Look
for them, and ye shall find.
We don't want to shrinkle back from our morals.
No, absolutely not.
We haven't used that word in a while.
No. We need to get back on that because we were on a roll there to get a word in the dictionary, and then we just dropped it. In fact, didn't we call Webster's one day?
I started to.
Yeah, you were giving them your phone number over the air.
And then I was like, wait a minute. Michael's probably recording, so.
Okay, so listen, next episode or so, let's get back on that project. Wouldn't it be great to have a word in the dictionary? That'd just be fantastic. Oh, a couple weeks ago, I went on a rant about wishing I could create words, and I mentioned words like fuzz. What an interesting word. We got a text from a listener who, I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, actually researched the word fuzz and said what it was all about, and that was so fun.
Doesn't that refer to police officers in Britain?
That's modern slang, I think. But
yeah, isn't that?
No, I think hers went back to medieval times or something. I don't remember. Like fuzz, maybe it was like the stuff on the top of jam that left the lid off of. I don't remember.
Wouldn't that be mold?
Well, but maybe then they called it fuzz. I don't think that's exactly it. But we'll circle back what that exactly was, because I don't think that was it. But anyway, www.mikethebaptist.com. It's a website. Peach fuzz, right. It's probably not that stuff on top of jam. But anyway, www.mikethebaptist.com. It's a website. Go on there and look around. Buy you a t-shirt, buy you a coffee mug, look up old episodes, new episodes. It's a website.
Send us an email.
And send us an email.
We need some.
At comments@mikethebaptist.com. We've got a few more emails lately. It's encouraging.
Shameless promotions.
Yes. And so here's another one. Send us an email. Just send us something. If you send us an email, we'll quite likely mention you and read something about your email and, give you a little shout out. It's just kind of people we are. On the front porch today, last week we talked about when all of us kids, our family, cousins, and relatives got together, what we did at these big family gatherings. I thought we'd narrow the focus down a little bit this week and talk about just within our own little family unit, and specifically episodes or times that we got into it with our siblings. Now, humor is welcome here. So if you have a funny episode, that's really what we're looking for. If you want to get all serious, you get all serious. It's up to you. It's your time.
I was really hoping Neil would be here for this.
Yes.
Because he's an only child.
Oh, yes. That would have been interesting.
Watch him
be confused.
Stumble through that.
Well.
Okay, so I'll start that.
Okay. Wait now. I got to say, Neil didn't have siblings, but didn't he Didn't he say one time he had a homeless cat? Is that the way he described it? He had a homeless cat?
Maybe.
I think, but it's okay. Go ahead, H. Tell us about it.
It's a sad little childhood. So my sister is like 7 years younger than me. So we're so far apart on so many things. And
You're that much age difference? I did not realize that. Okay.
And we probably our worst fights, honestly, was when Mom came home. We kind of did okay until Mom came home. I don't know if it was a competition or what it was, but I'll go ahead and admit that, I was kind of a mean older brother sometimes. Like when she was really little, I thought it was fun to pick her up.
Newsflash,
I know,
HD probably was not as nice with his words as he could have been.
I thought it was fun to pick her up and spin her around and round and round, but her arms would come out of socket.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and for some reason my parents got mad about that.
Wait, so you're talking like grabbing her by their arms? Oh yeah. I used to do that.
Yeah,
Pretty forcefully too.
They
Her arms
would
were
get
coming
mad.
out.
They'd get mad about it. And then, my friends would come over to play football, and we may or may not have tackled her. And one of my favorite events was we had this long, very narrow hallway in our house, and I'm talking about it's wood floor, barnwood paneling, and then all of a sudden there's this stop at the end. So she had this what I call a little Flintstone car, the little pedal car.
Yeah.
Well, we would take all of our stuffed animals and pillows and blankets, and we'd build this barricade up at the end, and we'd put her in that car and run it as fast as we could, and just like a crash test dummy or something, and I don't know why she doesn't like me today, but yeah, we've had a few spats along the way, but nothing too bad.
That last one actually sounds kind of fun.
It was fun.
It was fun. Did you ever get in a fight?
No, because I knew if I ever hit her, my dad would kill me.
So you couldn't go
there. It was
there.
more a war of words.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd probably kill you, resuscitate you, and then kill you again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But did she, being the littler sibling, did she ever just get extremely angry where she just turned red? And
Yeah. She looked like that when she was born. I was like,
I got to say, though, swinging her around till her arms came out of socket, that's pretty extreme.
right, maybe threw a few walnuts at her,
But she was probably having fun until her arm came out of socket, right?
Right.
Probably.
Yeah, so I mean, that's not even really your fault.
Well,
How many did you have? How many siblings did you
just
have?
one.
That's it?
Yep.
Just you and her. And you're 7 years apart.
Oh, 7 years. So see, I was the golden child, and she screwed it all up. Downhill from there.
You keep telling yourself that.
I know, right? Well, there's only one. Surely to gosh, you can be the golden child.
Are you through?
Yeah.
Is that it? Pretty calm. You're getting calmer in your old
I
age.
know.
But I know that there are stories coming.
Percolating.
Yeah, there will be made up for. Jason?
So when I was, my brother and I, we used to fight like cats and dogs all the time anyway. And when I was 8, we moved from Texas to Colorado. And when we did that, there was a time period in my brother's life where he was getting into fights like all the time at school, like all the time. So much so to the point that one of his friends bought him some boxing gloves, those little miniature boxing gloves. So rather than having fuzzy dice hanging from your rearview mirror, he had boxing gloves hanging down. And so anyway, he had a couple years advantage on me, and he obviously had a little bit more real life practice than I ever did. So the fights were usually very one-sided. I remember one time, man, he got me good right in the temple, and he says I passed out. I don't think I passed out. I think I just sat in the lazy boy chair stunned, and then when the moment passed and I could get up again, I got up and we went back at it. So we had fights like that. One time we were at my aunt and uncle's house in California, and shoving each other into the wall so hard that pictures on the other side of the wall were coming off. One time in our house in Colorado, I shoved my brother into a wall and knocked a light socket back about a half an inch, which, if you don't know, a light socket is attached to a 2x4 on the other side. So the fact that you could shove it back that far kind of gives you an idea of the force of what we were doing. But one time that I remember in particular where we almost got into a fight but didn't because we were at football practice. But the coach had us running just doing cardio, running from one side to the other. And he set one group up at one goal line, another group up at the other goal line, and they were just running, and he'd blow the whistle, and everybody was running towards each other, and they'd run past each other to the other goal line, whatever. And so my brother he's probably 17 at the time, something like that, 17 or 18 at the time, and we're in practice and we're running, and he acts like he's going to hit me. And so he's running towards me at probably 10 to 15 miles an hour. I'm running towards him 10, 15 miles an hour. He acts like he's going to hit me and then actually hit me and almost knocked me out on the football field right there. And that got me pretty angry and upset. And
That'll do it.
That'll do it. There was a time when I was riding my dirt bike and I broke my collarbone, and my brother, rather than being concerned with the fact that I broke my collarbone, runs and yells at me for letting the gas leak out of the motorcycle. So, it was always fun growing up.
How many do you have? How many siblings?
Just the one is enough.
Just the
Don't
one.
you think that's enough? It sounds like enough to me.
It's enough.
Yeah.
That's what I had. I had one growing up. I had 3 others, but not in the house.
I'm starting to see maybe some brain injuries.
Well,
some of the things are starting to click for you.
Starting to explain some things.
Explanations are unfolding here.
Yeah.
Sounds like neither one of you really had fist fights with your brothers, though. I mean,
he had fist fights with me, but I didn't get a chance to get him back because he was
over with pretty quick.
Yeah, it was over pretty quick.
Interesting. The brother I did grow up with, we didn't really fist fight, but we did some mean things once in a while to each other, and I can recall getting in some kind of a scuff with each other, and I was running from him, and I had outrun him up the side of our house. It wasn't a big house, but I had outrun him and gotten up to one corner as he was coming on the other end of the house around the corner. He threw a rock from back at the other corner and hit me in the temple. And it was a bad day for me and him both after that. The year I might have been 7 and he might have been 8. He was about a year and 3 months ahead of me. But the year our granddad bought us BB guns. In fact, well, it's over there. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, leaning up against the fireplace is my old BB gun.
Is it a Red Ryder BB gun?
It's a Daisy. Oh. But anyway, so the year that we got those for Christmas, within 30 minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mama also at that time bought us these real tight little cowboy boots. We were
like they were
in the
too
winter.
Small for you tight, or like
they were just real tight. They were just, the reason I remember them being tight is because within 30 minutes of us getting our Daisy BB guns, we were at the back corner of the house by the old cistern where the well pump and all that was, standing face to face, taking turns shooting each other with those BB guns on the top of those boots right there at the what do you call it, the top of your foot there.
Yeah,
we were shooting each other right there, and it stung dog get out. And one of us would shoot and watch the other one hop around till it calmed down, and then we would let each other shoot the other one. And we didn't get mad about that, but we did some ornery things like that to each other. When I had my first girlfriend, she lived a couple or 3 miles out away from the house. Part of it was a dirt road, and I had a dirt bike, but it was before I was driving. So I didn't have a car, so he was the first driver. So I had to, everywhere I went in a car, he had to take me. So on some evening, he was going to the Sugar Shack, which was a local place where they had pool tables and kids got together and people gathered and stuff. He was going to go there, but I talked him into dropping me off at the girlfriend's house. And he was going to stay over at the Sugar Shack for a couple hours and then come back and get me so we'd be home in time and not get in trouble for being home late. He drives me down there and drops me off. When it's time for him to show up to pick me up, he doesn't show. So I start calling the payphone. There's a payphone at the Sugar Shack. You could call in there, and whoever answers, you say, "Hey, I'm looking for so-and-so," and they'd go get them. So I start calling. I call for 30 minutes trying to get him. JJ, everybody called him. His name's Rick. But anyway, I called for 30 minutes trying to get somebody to get JJ to the phone to come get me.
How do you get from Rick to JJ?
Because there was a TV show at the time called
Good Times.
Good Times. JJ was this thin, goofy guy, and
Dynamite.
Ricky's name was Ricky Joe Jackson. And somebody at some point put the JJ together, and then they would say it's dynamite for a long time to him. But anyway, JJ finally comes to the phone and says, I ain't coming to get you. And so I was hot. Man, I was hot. If I could have got to him, I would have hit him. But I had to get home. I took off walking. I was so mad. I was walking. At this time, it was pitch dark, and I'm 2.5, 3 miles from my house. But I had to get home. In Arkansas, in the middle of the night, there are not streetlights everywhere. It's pitch black. Most, if you're on a dirt road, it's pitch black. And in Arkansas, in the middle of the night, you hear all sorts of things.
Yep.
There's all sorts of creatures in those woods, and they make noises. I just remember being mad and hot, and I was halfway home. He shows up in the car. But anyway, okay, fond memories. Still aggravated with him about that one. But yeah, we didn't fight either. But it's interesting. There were two kids in each of these houses here. Okay, don't know what that means, but okay. Let's take a break. Come back and talk about stuff found in the Bible.
Do you listen to or watch Mike the Baptist? Do you wear clothes? If so, we've got some great news. T-shirts and hoodies are now available at MikeTheBaptist.com. Just visit MikeTheBaptist.com, click on the merchandise link, and you'll find high-quality tees, hoodies, and even onesies for the babies in a variety of colors, all with the Mike the Baptist logo and familiar sayings from the program. Mike the Baptist is a true labor of love. No one has to pay to listen or watch the program, but Mike and the crew have to eat. So a portion of each sale of a t-shirt or hoodie goes to Mike's local Kroger, Walmart, or electric utility. It's kind of simple like that. In order to keep the program free, we have to generate a bit of income to pay the bills. When you make a purchase, you're not only doing the world a favor by wearing clothes, you're helping keep the messages of Mike the Baptist on the air. Thanks for helping out, and thanks so much for being involved in spreading the good news. What a great planet.
Hey, welcome back. HD, don't you find the Bible fascinating?
I do. It's an amazing book.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that kind of strikes me is every time you read it, you may not know actually what's going to happen that day, but something in there will speak to you, and it'll help you along the way. So
Every time.
My suggestion is
Stay in it.
stay in it. That's
Hey.
right. I heard a great quote, maybe in D.L. Moody. He said, "Prayer is the way I talk to God. Scripture is the way God talks to me."
That's a good quote.
Yep.
That's good.
I think a lot of people kind of wonder why they don't hear him speak, but he is speaking if you
Yeah.
read a little.
We always want that big cloud in the sky, the lightning bolt, talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
God's like, here's my revelation to you. You gotta listen. So therefore, you gotta read.
Interesting. Speaking of stuff we found in the Bible, what are we talking about this week?
Hey, you couldn't have picked a better front porch topic. Brothers fighting, siblings fighting, because this week we were reading about a guy named Korah in the book of Numbers who challenges Moses in his authority. I mean, literally just says, you've overstepped your bounds as the leader. You've called yourself the leader, and we're of the Levite tribe just like you are. And so therefore we have just as much authority as you do. So it's kind of an interesting topic that you brought up, because siblings fight, people fight, and a lot of it is who's in control, who has authority. And so one of the things maybe we need to talk about is how you deal when somebody challenges your authority.
Interesting.
How do we handle it, or how should we handle it?
Well, there's a little bit to be learned in the ways that you've done it wrong and the ways you do it right.
Well, H, I've always been a bit of a rebel. And it took me a while to understand authority. But when I understood it, it made it easier to deal with, because if there wasn't a structure set up where there are people in authority, everybody would just be crazy.
Yep.
It would be chaos and madness. So, yes, I can respect authority now in a different way than I used to.
Didn't you have a episode in your life where a police officer pulled you over and you were questioning whether he had the right to pull you over?
I did. It was the Sunday I was being ordained as a deacon. On the way to the church,
This is awesome. Right?
wound up spread eagled over the hood of my Lincoln Town car on a Sunday morning in the middle of town on the way to church.
Yep, that's
because I questioned his authority a little bit. In fairness, at the time, our local police in the little town where I live kind of had a reputation of being a little pushy. So I was fresh off with that information in my head. Looking back, I probably could have not challenged him at that moment. I probably could have just kind of went along with the program. This is how it works. And I wouldn't have had that story though, which is fun to tell because it was actually, the week of being ordained as a deacon in my church.
Did you think he was profiling you because you were on your way to church?
It could be. I do know that some.
What was it that you did wrong?
I don't
Opened his
remember.
mouth,
I'm sure I was going a little fast,
okay.
which probably would have been, hey, slow down, just slow down a little bit. But I might have been a little too cocky that morning, and anyway, so I quit asking for police officers' badge numbers. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah.
You've seen that on TV. Oh, I want your badge number. I won't be asking for badge numbers. So, I'm just like,
Yeah.
badge number, here
Reality
you go.
TV is not always real, right?
So yeah,
awesome.
the answer to your question is I react a lot different than I used to. Even if I don't like it, I'm better at accepting that. It's like you're in authority at our church. You're the pastor. There are times that I might not agree with something you say or do, but I understand that's not my job. That's your job.
And I've had to learn that too, because sometimes we can get a little pig-headed because God has given us some authority. As parents, we do this sometimes because I said so. And that may be true, but you'll do your child a better job if you'll explain the whys, because that's just part of human nature is why. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? Now, when you explain the why and they still don't want to do it, at some point you got to show your authority. But yeah, I learned early on as a pastor. I have a gift that's really a curse. It's a quick tongue. And one of the things that you find out really quickly in being a pastor is that everything you do is questioned. Everything. If you set the thermostat to 72, somebody wants to know why you didn't set it to 70. Anything and you're under such a microscope. Everything you do is questioned. Why did we do this? I've had people tell me you didn't have the authority to do this. You didn't have the authority to do that, and so you kind of have to swallow that pride a little bit and check yourself. But kind of like you in my early days when we're full of tinkle and vinegar, it has rolled out of my mouth. When God calls you to be the pastor one day, let me know.
Yep.
That has rolled off my tongue, and I'll just tell you, that does not make many friends that way. So
How did the rest of that conversation go?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
It's tricky.
It is.
It's tricky. And if you think about it though, when a baby gets old enough to kind of do things on its own, a baby will challenge the authority of a parent.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like it's built into a baby to say no at some point, when they're all this little sweet bundle of joy, and then one day they say no. They look at you and they say no.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, Karis, is like the sweetest little kid ever. She's just a good kid.
I see all the butt coming up though.
Yeah. There was one time that it was late at night, approaching early morning, might have been early morning, and she woke up and she was playing in the crib. And so I, as a parent, get up and, she's making noise and just trying to, hey, what's going on? I know you need to sleep. So you try to do the things to get the kid to go back to sleep. And I'd do those things and she'd pop her head right back up. I'd lay her back down. She'd pop her head right back up. And then third or fourth time, I push her head down. And then she pops her head up and gives me this look of defiance. And I was like, oh, this is fixing to go sideways real quick. I actually had to step out of the room for about 10 to 15 minutes, let myself cool down, because the look of defiance that was on her face in that moment in time, when I was actually just there to do what was good for her, good for those around her, make life better for everybody. And her look of defiant, because what I wanted her to do and what she wanted to do were two very divergent things. And I wonder how often that's not our relationship with God. It would have been in my power to just smack her, and it would have been in my authority to do that. But I know that I, as an imperfect human, would not have been able to discipline her well in that moment in time. And so I chose to walk away, give her a moment of grace, let the Holy Spirit do some work in this situation on me, and maybe tire her out as well. But how much more gracious is God towards us than that? Whereas me as a parent would have faultily disciplined her, God never messes up. And when we do get disciplined, it's only for our good and for His glory. And how much more when we do experience grace, is it not grace because God's just tired of the situation and needs to walk away, but it's grace because God has chosen to give us grace in that moment. And in the story of Korah's rebellion, you said something the other day as we were talking about this. There's somewhat a recognition by the Israelite leaders there that I may have not done this leadership thing perfectly. And so their response was to bow down. When the other Israelite leaders that are rebelling, their response was to be defiant, saying, nah, you can't make me do that. I'm going to do whatever I want. And in that passage of scripture, Moses actually says to them, you guys need to get away from these people. Just get away from these people, because it's fixing to go sideways real quick. And I think that is some really good advice for people in general. One of the best things you can do as a child of God, as somebody that's made in His image, whether you admit that you're made in His image or not, whether you're a believer or an unbeliever, one of the best things you can do is follow the advice that Moses gave. When people are doing things that they don't need to be doing, when they're rebellious, one of the best things you can do is just step away from them. Put some distance in between you and them. I like to call people like that black holes. And you guys know what a black hole is, right? It's a star that is gotten so big and eventually it collapses in on itself, and the gravity becomes so intense that light doesn't even escape from that. And so there's that moment around the star where light doesn't even escape. And then they call that the event horizon. And if you get too close to the event horizon, you'll get sucked in and there's no escape. And I think, honest to goodness, one of the best things you can do as a human being is when you see stuff going on that should not be going on, is just put some distance in between you and that situation. You'll save yourself from a lot of trouble. And I was talking about this with another student minister in the area. He's talking about some stuff that's going on, some of the things that he's dealing with, and he was asking for advice. And one of the things I said to him was, man, just be found doing the right thing.
You're okay.
Just be found doing the right thing. And so if you're going through something right now, either you feel rebellious in your heart or you see somebody rebellious in their heart, man, just create some distance there between you, and don't let them suck you into their rebellion, and just be found doing the right thing. And I think you can save yourself from a lot of hurt and heartache if you just do those things right there.
You know, one of the things that really impresses me with Moses in this is that he's the guy, right? He's the guy that God has used to perform the 10 plagues, at least announce them. He's the guy that's held his staff up and the seas part. He's the guy that's brought water to them, brought food to them through God's intervene. And yet they're challenging his authority. And again, that would probably be one of my, when God calls you to be the leader, he'll let you know, Jack. But it says Moses gets down on his face and cries out to God. So when this challenge comes to his authority, he doesn't immediately want to punch the guy in the nose or call the guards to take him outside and, cut him. It's he really takes that personally and is kind of questioning, am I doing the right things? Have I taken liberties that I shouldn't have? And he basically leaves it up to God and says, God, you're going to have to fight this for me. And I think that's a really humbling place to be, but it's also a cool place to be. Early on, when I became a pastor, of course, y'all know that wasn't always my objective in life. And I remember talking to an older gentleman, and he told me, he said, if you have to tell them all that you're the pastor, you're not really the pastor. You'll earn the title. And if you have to tell them that you are, if you have to tell your kids all the time, I'm in charge here. Well, if you have to tell them that, then obviously you're not. So how do you deal with conflicts like that when people are challenging your authority?
Again, how should I or how do I?
I think he was asking how do you.
Yeah.
I think he's looking for an example of you personally.
Man, it depends on, is it one of my better moments or not? I'm not, I grew up in a family that was very quick-witted and sharp-tongued as well. And I picked up some of those habits over the years. I like to think
You're Italian. I mean, y'all put people in like concrete shoes and stuff.
Disappear.
Vinny.
Well,
Jenny.
Growing up, my dad did know people from Hell's Angels, and he had some people tell my dad, hey, if you need me to make them disappear, I can make them disappear. So my dad knew some real characters growing up, having a garage, and yeah. So it wasn't really a threat. It was more of a promise.
I know people.
Yeah. So I like to think that I have gotten better over the years and everything, but I think so much of how I actually respond and how I should respond depends on how tired and stressed and frustrated I am in the moment. And there's so many things that affect my ability to do things the way that I should. As I think I've heard from other people, sometimes my giver crapper is broken.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the fact that, man, there's just some times where I'm tired and I'm frustrated already. And then when you add even a small thing on top of it, I may not respond the way that I should. How should I respond? As scripture says, like a madman shooting firebrands or deadly arrows is somebody that says, I was only joking. I think sometimes the best thing you do is just be quiet. When Job and God were having their confrontation, there's a passage of scripture in there where God says to Job, the best thing you do is just be quiet right now. And I think that's a really good attitude and if you know, personality trait or characteristic that you should hold on to is let the Spirit speak before you do.
This whole idea of having to toot our own horn, it really comes back to this idea that, one, we're probably insecure in whatever our position is in that situation. But then the other thing is, do we really trust God? And again, in this story, what's interesting is that Moses kind of puts himself on their level. And he says, okay, everybody go get your fire pan. So it was supposed to be representative of the prayers, and put the fire in there and drop some incense on it. And let's let God decide, and again, I am amazed that Moses can do that. I see why now a lot of people call him a humble servant, because he trusted God to really make things right in the end. And I don't know about you guys, but that's hard sometimes. Somebody zings me, the first thing I want to do is zing them back +1, or prove that I was right. And why is it hard to trust God to do the right thing in your mind?
Or when somebody has hurt you in the past and you see the same circumstances coming up, you begin to think of ways, I know where this is going, and I'm going to be ready this time around. And it's just not a good place to be.
Well, but by the same token, I don't think you're instructed anywhere in the Bible to be a wimp.
No.
And just take it.
I don't know. That slapped you on one cheek, turn the other cheek.
Yeah, but
that's difficult.
It's difficult, but
I mean, I agree. You don't have to be a doormat.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. If somebody's obviously doing you wrong,
right?
I don't think for 1 second God ever intended you just to walk right back in there and be done wrong again, over and over and over and over. I think what he does mean is for you to find a way to deal with that where you're not doing wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think for 1 second he ever intended for us just to be wimps and just, like you said, a doormat and let people walk over us, which is it's a concern of mine in modern culture, that Christians misinterpret what that means, and then we wind up getting beat up over and over again when we wouldn't have to. If you just think about it, I think you know that I've taken on a new role of writing political things, commentaries, op-eds, and just... It dawns on me that if every Christian in America went to the polls and voted for politicians, leaders, people that we put in authority in our government, if all the Christians went and voted in one election for your local people, your state people, your national people, we could change the entire country by putting God-fearing people who think like we do, who believe what we do, and who follow, I guess, some moralities that the current culture doesn't follow. In one generation, we could completely change, but we don't. And I think part of that is because maybe as Christians, sometimes we do misinterpret that turn the other cheek thing. And we think that means don't do anything. That's going on over there. What I've got going on has nothing to do with that. When in reality, you know, the Bible teaches, obviously, that God puts people in authority, in positions of authority. I interpret that to believe that God puts a structure in place. But why else would he allow us the opportunity to vote for somebody? So it makes sense to me that I understand authority now like I didn't used to, and I respect it. But like in our country, we have the opportunity and the obligation to put individuals in those. If none of us sat back and voted, I think we would see something different than what we see now. But, and I don't mean to become political, but to me, the authority thing, I think God has the position of authority. And he set up the structure just like a man is the head of his household. A pastor is the authority in his church. The leaders that we put around us who make decisions for our lives, we put those people in there. I think we're turning our cheek in the wrong way when we don't be involved in that and make our beliefs known, and then put some feet behind that and say, HD, you're a Christian man and you want to do that job, which is all these positions are, these authorities. It's just a job. You're a Christian man. I know you're a Christian man. I'm going to help you get in that position of authority.
Yeah, I think that scripture specifically is talking about our personal response to an offense. Now, we have to be careful because I don't want any body who's being abused physically to say, well, if my husband slaps me, then I guess I'm just supposed to take that and be okay with that because God put him in authority over me. That's a stretch in that reading of that scripture. What it does put is it puts the impetus on us as Christians to be like Christ, who, again, when he was being beaten and spit upon and cursed, he could have with great authority, punish them immediately, but there was a bigger plan in place. And so he was teaching us there's a right way. Scripture talks about us being wise as serpents and gentle as doves. In the recent political scene where somebody has shot at a political candidate, I've heard, well, maybe we should shoot at their political. Well, that shouldn't be a Christian response at all. At all. That's not being as gentle as doves. Wise as serpents says we're going to vote for the right people, and we're going to trust. And that's part of this question: can we trust that God is going to work out His plan in spite of even our frailties and our faults? God told Israel early on, "You don't need a physical king. I'm your king. And if you get a physical king, here's what he's going to do. He's going to lord it over you. He's going to take your daughters. He's going to take your property. He's going to take your slaves. And you're going to have to serve him instead of serving me." Well, they chose. That's what they wanted to do. Well, we see how that turned out. All those men failed in one way or the other, which is why Christ has to be our ultimate king, pointing back to that he was supposed to be our ultimate king, not David, not Solomon. So all that to say is that, we have this responsibility in our culture to respect authority. And I'll even say this, even when people have gotten into the White House that I wasn't excited about, I didn't stand on the street corner and yell obscenities at them or about them, or write on my Facebook account about them. Pray for them. Endure. What's God teaching us through these moments? Learn to stand up for what you believe in, but at the same time, there's some difficulties there. I love the story of Daniel. Daniel's a great example of how to live in a godless society and still keep God first in your life. And so much so that 4 or 5 kings used him in their court because he honored them. Even though they didn't worship God, he honored them.
Isn't it funny how any culture, when it gets bad enough, will come back to the creator of all things? They'll all come back. I mean, it's built in. So Jason's been very quiet for a minute. He's stirred about something.
I'm just listening to the interesting discussion. I have lots of half-baked thoughts right now. I don't know that this is really the time or place to say stuff in a deep way, but I do think it's important to note in the environment that we're in right now, and one of the key truths that we're going to talk about on Sunday morning at our church is that rebellion is often rooted in discontent. And I really honestly think we are in our nation in a season of discontent, like just across the board.
We're angry about everything.
Very angry,
obviously.
And you see it in the use of our very rough and coarse language in normal dialogue with other people. You see it in our interactions as we're driving down the streets. If somebody's going the speed limit, we will drive past them, flip them off. Our children's minister was flipped off in the parking lot at Walmart one time. I was flipped off because I pulled into traffic and apparently didn't go fast enough, quick enough. You have all these things, and it's really rooted in discontent. And so when people respond that way towards you, are you going to let their discontent become your discontent? Or are you going to just rest in the fact that you have a bigger defender than that? Are you going to rest in the fact that we're not looking for temporal victories, we're looking for eternal ones? The key meta-narrative, the big picture of the Bible is that in the end we win.
I love, the fruit of the Spirit. It reminds us, who are we to be? We're to have love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and gentleness and self-control. Those are things that our culture does not have. And when
that is one fruit.
And that's one fruit. Yeah,
it's not pick and choose. It's one fruit. That's the
result of the Holy Spirit of God living in us. And so I think one of the ways that we can live in an ungodly world where everything's not fair. Everybody's not a winner. You know, we just have to learn to be content that we're called to be salt and light in our area, in our families, in our community. And when we're disappointed about something, it's okay to communicate that, but there's a right way and there's a wrong way to communicate it.
Yeah.
You know, back to, you know, Jesus being our ultimate example. Yeah, he flipped over the tables, maybe a couple of times, but if he went to Passover every year, which he probably did as an adult male, he didn't do it every time. And so we can't just have anarchy in our minds that every time something doesn't go right, we're going to protest and get mad and kick tables over. Sometimes you just got to be at peace and know that, you know what, this is not our home. This, you know, think about the worst thing that can happen to you in this life. If that's as bad as it's ever going to be, it's only getting better, because that's where we're headed to better things.
I kind of think about the world around me. If it operated the way my church does, everything would be much better.
Yeah. Because
in a church, you have conflicts and you have difference of opinions, but like you said, nobody has an uprising. Well, it happens once in a while over history, but nobody has an uprising in a local church. There's conversations that take place. If there's two different views, people can still talk about those views and ultimately get to a place where you either say, well, we're not totally disagreeing, so let's just let the whole body of the church have this input and then vote on it and see what everybody, and believe that God would lead the majority of us to move in one direction. I've seen this happen over and over and over and over again in my church, where in those times that might get a little difficult, when the rubber met the road and a majority of people felt like God was maybe leading things to go one direction, the other people honored that and went along with it, and it works out. It works out.
Think about this in politics. You and I have a short-term agenda. We want America to be like it was for our grandfathers and our fathers, and we wanted to be some of those things. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I want a good place for my grandkids to grow up. I don't want men dressing like women and women dressing like men and all these harsh words and all that stuff. I just don't want them to even be around that. But what if part of God's plan is to use the angst and the anxiety of our culture to help fund the Antichrist? You know what? I can't go against God's plan either. And while I feel like I need to be a good citizen, and I should also put my recyclables in the recycle bin, and I should also drive the speed limit, and I should also, you know, try not to use too much gas because we're causing carbon whatever happens to the atmosphere. My goal is not to save this world, because everything else in this world is going to burn up. My calling is to share the gospel. And while I want to protect this world, I should be a good citizen, and I should be a good, earth person, plant a tree, pick up dog poop, all that good stuff. You know,
if you're walking the greenways of White House, please don't leave your dog's poop in bags under the bench. Come on, be better.
We should be good citizens in this world, but our calling is to be kingdom oriented, and we can't get stuck in that. And that's what I think to some of our Christian brothers and sisters. They get so fired up about politics.
Yeah.
And if this person wins, we're going to heck in a handbasket. And if that person doesn't win, we won't do this, we won't do that. Nobody in Israel wanted King Nebuchadnezzar to come take them over. But that was part of God's plan. And if you stand in the way of God's plan, got to be careful of that too.
Well, look, it's very simple to me, and I won't stay here on this topic, but politics is just like a business to me. The people that are in these positions that you vote for are put in there to do a job.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like that job is often to get reelected.
It is, and that's part of the problem, but don't get me started. But I'm just saying that, and this comes back to when I first said...
I say that to say don't put too much trust in the individual, because the bag of goods they're trying to sell you is often for the selfish reason of trying to get reelected.
Exactly, which is why we
put
need
your trust in
the
Jesus.
right people in those positions. But I'm just saying, going back to when I first started talking a little while ago, I view authority different than I used to. I used to just be ready to fight you just because you thought you were going to tell me what to do. I view that now as, like, you're the pastor of my church. You have a job to do there. You spend 24/7, maybe sometimes 32/7. And you too, Jason, in your job at our church, y'all spend that time doing that job, which you were, churchy word or not, you were called to do. And we basically hired you to do as a group of people. Who am I to spend a few hours there every week and then walk into your office and tell you how to do what your job is? I view authority different than I used to. Now, I'm not afraid of either one of you. I'll give you my opinion.
Yep.
I'm not, because we can talk to each other. And there are times when you will accept my opinion and think about it. And there may be something a change comes because of that. That's the way things are supposed to work. I wouldn't for one second barge in there and force feed too many things on any of it. It's just the way I view it. So the original question, how do you handle authority? I handle it much different than I used to, because your job's not my job. And I'm like you a little bit. If you come at me, tell me how to do my job, I might take a little offense to that. I've calmed down a lot there too. I won't fight it so much. So anyway, long story short, I think how you view authority, even how you view God, has a lot to do, or probably everything to do with how you react. There's this cartoon I remember seeing a long time ago. It really stuck in my head. It was a mouse, and the mouse was standing here on planet Earth, and this huge hawk was flying down out of the sky as big as the planet, and it had its claws out, and it was just about to grab the mouse, and the mouse was standing there looking at the hawk, flipping it off. And this is a picture to me of what do I know when I zoom out and look at myself on the little bitty planet amongst all the people, even at this table. What do I really know that would make me crazy or bold enough to do what that mouse was doing to that hawk? I have a little world of my own. I like to think I'm the authority in some places in it. But I also realize now, that you respect my authority in my world too, the same way I do yours, and that's why we get along.
Mm-hmm.
You and I know each other well enough we can take shots at each other nowadays and then just
it's all
move along. But
this whole concept, though, is Moses humbled himself before God and before his peers. And when we trust God to do the right thing, you'd much rather him fight for you than even to fight for yourself, or to have God fight against you. I learned a long time ago. It's like, you know what? If I'm worried about somebody that didn't take my opinion or whatever, I'm like, you know what, God, you got this, and we'll just, even if we make a mistake, God, you're going to work through this somehow, and you're going to get glory out of it. And it's not. I don't want to have a stroke over it. And I think that's the place, like Jason was talking about, our culture. We're just so angry about everything and upset about everything, and it's because we're not resting in who God is. My dad tells this story. When he was a kid, he went and worked for this old boy all day, and he came home, and my grandfather said, "Well, what'd they pay you?" He said, "He didn't pay me." He said, "Why not?" He said, "I don't know." So my granddad went down there and talked to this guy and says, "Why didn't you pay my son?" He said, "Oh, he didn't work hard enough." And my granddad said, "Well, you either going to pay him or I'm going to take it out of you." Dad said, "I got paid that day." And my dad as a kid, he couldn't have fought that fight against an adult. And that's where we are. I mean, we can't fight against, really, you might win a fight against an individual, but you've probably lost the battle against a bigger thing. And so you just have to trust that God's got this. And again, we don't have to be a doormat.
Right.
And I'm not saying don't defend yourself. I mean, I'm not saying any of that, but I am saying when it comes to this idea of authority, when it comes to this idea of who's in charge, God's in charge. And you just trust him that he'll do the right thing for you.
I just want to, I think we're kind of coming to a close here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring up the concept, the idea of what's the difference between happiness and joy. You guys,
Circumstances, yeah.
happiness, the root word of happiness is what happens to you. It's all the things external to you. So for you to be happy, if your goal is happiness, the life around you has to be perfect. Well, that's not what God has called us to. He's called us to joy. And joy is not external, it's internal. And so, man, if you're in a season of discontent right now and you're listening to this podcast and you're like, yeah, man, I relate to that. I was flipped off, and I was reading on it's a website called Hip White House, and somebody flipped off another person and threw trash at their vehicle. And if stuff like that is happening to you and you're just in a season of discontent, or maybe you're the one that's throwing the trash at somebody else's vehicle, man, that can't be a good place for you to live in. Are you not dissatisfied with the way life is going? And so if you're in a season of discontent, I just challenge you right now, take a step back and take a quick assessment of your life. What is the cause of your discontent? It's not what happens to you. That's not what makes you discontent. It's that there's no joy inside of you. Mm. What is broken in you that is causing you to be discontent and unjoyful? And let me just present to you an option. And I honestly think the best question that there ever is to ask is, what am I going to do for eternity? Where are you going to go for eternity? Are you headed towards an eternity with God? Or are you headed to an eternity away from God? And if you're in a season of discontent, it might be a good question for you to ask yourself, what role, what place, does God have any place in my life? And if he does have a place in your life, like you maybe need to reassess, have I taken him off of his throne and put something else in that throne? And if you don't have a relationship with God at all, let me tell you the best thing you can ever do. The best thing you can ever do. It's always, always, always in your best interest to trust God, to have a relationship with him, even if circumstances around you don't look right. Man, the big picture of the Bible is, in the end, we win. So if you're going through a season of discontent, man, just take a quick self-assessment. Like, what's causing your discontent? What is broken in you? Has God been misplaced on the throne of your heart, or have you just never actually put Jesus on the throne of your heart? And let me tell you that if it's not been working for you the way you're going now, why don't you try something different? Why don't you try Jesus?
Good idea. I support that idea.
Sounds like a winner.
Been there, done that. Yeah, when you get that middle core joy thing settled, the rest of it can aggravate you, but it can't defeat you. And there's a lot of peace in there right there. Every human I've ever met, the one thing, if you talk to them long enough, that they're looking for is peace. Whether they say it or not, the one thing everybody wants.
And peace is not an absence of war. At least the Old Testament word for peace is not just merely the absence of war. It's something even more than that. It's your overall well-being.
It's a satisfaction.
To the deepest part of who you are.
It's a satisfaction that you can't explain, but it's there. Good talk, rambunctious.
There you go.
Good. Oh, and for the record, for the listener, flipping the bird is not a common theme that happens every week here. It's come up several times today, but just because, just because. It just happened in the conversation.
Change our theme. We're just Christians trying not to flip people off.
I guess so. Yeah.
We're describing other people doing that. We're not saying we were doing it ourselves.
I just want to say, if somebody just happened that don't listen very often, dropped in, we don't talk that way every week. It just came up talking about discontent, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take a break. Come back and play Inny or Outty.
That's a lot more fun.
It's all
a little lighter.
It's all good.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
Welcome back to the lighter portion of Mike the Baptist.
I feel lighter already.
I do too.
That was a heavy subject. It's
is.
good. Good
Well,
times now.
I'll just tell you, I don't ever like to bring politics up in this format because it's such a sensitive thing across the board to everybody. You know, it's interesting.
Sensitive.
What is that from a movie too?
That's from the same movie.
I have all these references from
the
movies,
same
and
movie.
I've
He's
seen
watched
six
one movie
movies.
in his whole life.
So it's all comes from the one. Today on Inny or Outty, speaking of authority, HD will be in the power seat once. I'll be in the power seat once. You can go first if you want, H, if you're ready.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you. The baptism of the apostles. Physical baptism of the apostles.
Oh, is it in there?
In there or not?
Oh,
Which disciples?
Apostles.
apostles.
Oh, you said apostles. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Not counting Paul, who's one is a late apostle, because we do know he was baptized. That one's definitely in
Them getting baptized or them baptizing?
Them getting
the
baptized is what I'm
apostles'
hearing.
baptism.
Did they get baptized? Their baptism. Not having been to school for this, I don't recall it. Except,
What's your gut telling you, Michael?
well, there's one instance of somebody getting baptized.
Baptism of the Holy Spirit or water
Apostles.
baptism?
Water baptism.
I mean, isn't there one instance that's pretty well known there?
I don't know. That's what you got to answer.
Which one are you thinking of?
Well, I don't want to work myself into a corner and seem completely illiterate all of a sudden, but I'm waiting to hear a hint back that somebody's on the same page as I am slightly.
Just go ahead and say what you're thinking. I have no idea what you're thinking right now.
No, because my head is in a battle with itself about a couple of meanings here.
It's like you and your brother are fighting right there.
That's right. We're back here with a BB gun shooting each other on the top of the feet right here.
Which, if you're listening, is never a good idea.
No, it stings. It's fun, but it stings. Apostles and disciples? Are they two different characters?
Well, the
The
apostles are...
Those that saw the resurrection.
Oh, the direct.
Yes.
The 12.
The resurrected.
Yes.
Never mind. I digress, or whatever that word is.
So if we're talking the apostles, I cannot... This sounds like a trap question. It really does. Trick question. I
Surely
cannot
not.
think of any instance at all. And this is crazy to think, but I cannot think of any instance at all where the disciples were baptized or the apostles were baptized. Although we assume that they were, because Jesus says, baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, teach them to do what I have done. So
But maybe they didn't have to.
are we talking like an indirect reference to it, or is there a story in the Bible where one of the disciples or apostles is actually getting baptized?
He is parsing this now.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have the picture and the story of Jesus being baptized physically.
Mm-hmm.
We have a story of Jesus, but he's not an apostle. He's Jesus.
So, do we have a story? Is it in the Bible where the apostles are baptized?
I think that's an Outty. I'm just going to stick my neck out there.
Are we talking a direct reference or an indirect reference? Because there is, John was baptizing his disciples, and there might be an indirect reference in there to the disciples that would later become apostles.
I just heard him ask, is there a story of an apostle getting baptized? That's just what I heard, but
Well, I think by the time
you think he's trying to trick us. I know what you're
I do feel like he's trying to trick us. I think by the time they're apostles, they've already been baptized if they're going to get baptized. So
yeah.
I'm probably really overthinking this, but I cannot think of anything, but I feel like this is a trick question.
Me too, but I'm going to say Outty because I think you would remember it if Jesus had dunked an apostle. I think there'd be a story that's pretty...
Oh, he's asked like if there's gophers or hedgehogs in the Bible. So I mean, like, is the color brown in the Bible? I don't know.
But we're talking about apostles here now.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I cannot think of any. So we're talking, if it's specifically the apostles, we're talking after Jesus was dead, buried, and resurrected.
Exactly.
So then we're talking, is it at the tail end of Matthew? No. Is it at the tail end of Mark? No. Any of the Gospels? No, it's not at the tail end of any of those. So we would really be looking at the book of Acts is the one that we would be limited to, because it's in that point that the apostles really are taking a front row seat. And so, at least for a time period. And I cannot think of any where they are getting baptized. So I'm going to say Outty, and it's just because I feel like it's a trick question. That's the only thing that's giving me pause, but I cannot think of a single one, and I'm going to feel like a really bad person when he says it's in there.
I'm going to say Outty too.
Well, in the book of John, it says... I'm just kidding, it doesn't say that. So,
oh my gosh.
There is no...
you just stressed.
There is no...
Really, it's like, I thought I'd eliminated the Gospels.
There's no direct story. You can make some assumptions. They probably were physically baptized even before Pentecost. Probably even before the cross. We know Andrew was a follower of John, so he probably was baptized by John, but we don't get and I just find that amazing because baptism is such a huge key component.
Yet there's no story of them.
But there's no story of any of those apostles. We know Paul was baptized. We know they were doing the baptizing, but there's no direct story where, hey, look, here's John and here's Paul or Peter being baptized by anybody. So it's kind of, you guys are right, but it's kind of one of those things.
Oh, that is a really good one.
That's just an assumption.
It leads to a lot of questions, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
About did they need to be by the risen Christ? Is that what we're saying here?
No, I mean, they could have been baptized right after Jesus was. I mean, I don't think the timing of it.
So there's just no instance
there's just no recording of them being physically baptized.
Interesting. But we were right.
But you were right. That's right. Correct.
Let's take it as a win.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here's an equally deep theological in your Outty, courtesy of MTB. Are strawberries in the Bible? You're welcome. We needed that, and I'm here to.
Our strawberries.
I'm here to provide.
Is that what you're having for dessert later on?
No, but I need to make some more jam. I made some jam a while back. It was really good, and I need to make some more.
You know, if you leave the top off that, there's a fuzz.
There's a fuzz grows on it. I don't know where
is
that
a
came
strawberry from. A uniquely North American product?
Like we invented it? Oh,
no,
wait,
like
I'm not supposed to. I'm sorry.
Like,
I'm asking the question.
Like coconuts, you know. Coconuts don't just grow everywhere.
Yeah.
True.
They don't grow in Canada.
I'm wondering if, and somewhere in the deep recesses of my brain, I'm thinking I may have heard that the strawberry or there's some types of berries that are only found in North America or originally found in North America. And the strawberry may be one of them.
Leave it to Americans to invent a fruit where the seeds are
They
on the
didn't
outside.
invent it. God made it.
What about the dingles?
Isn't that funny?
Dingleberries are a completely different thing.
That's a different fruit.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
I would not eat that fruit, just in case you're wondering.
exactly.
This conversation went sideways.
Jason says no. I kind of tend to agree with him. I can't remember any place in the Bible that talks about strawberries.
Yeah, strawberries. No, I mean
It doesn't have to be
dates,
plural.
Strawberry.
Right. It doesn't have to be plural. Boy, that put up. I just sat here and watched your brain clog up for
singing
a
that
second.
song, strawberry wine.
I was actually doing the same thing.
That's not a church song.
17.
It's
not.
It's not a
is
church
it?
hymn.
I don't know where I've ever heard that. Then must have been on your
It's
radio.
a very
over
popular song.
here. Yeah.
You write one song.
It
like
was.
that,
That was
and-
back when I was in high school.
Oh, you'd be golfing the rest of your life. You write one song like that.
Get busy.
I can't think of any, and I honestly think it might be a uniquely North American fruit. I could be wrong on that.
You could be.
So
I probably am wrong the way you're staring at me.
Professor Jason and I are going to say no. Strawberry is not in the Bible.
Unless it's a weird translation.
Unless you're reading like the Message
Yeah,
and
you know
the
what I
Cotton
think
Patch
about all
Gospel.
that.
somebody, you know,
There's apparently a pirate Bible now.
got a
Cabbage Patch
somebody got a
Kids
hickey
Bible.
and it turned into a strawberry. I don't know. All right,
Is that
so
what
no.
they call it after?
I don't know.
Oh, so your answer is,
No,
No.
not in the Bible.
which is?
Mm-hmm.
An Outty.
Yeah, you got to say
Yeah,
it.
howdy.
You're right. Strawberries are not in the Bible. There are references in some passages to a fruit, but not strawberries. I don't know if they're I don't know if they're uniquely North American or not. Are
Wait.
you going to Google that?
Here goes
I'm going to
Captain
Google that
Google.
real quick.
We tried a couple weeks ago to phone a friend,
Yes.
and he was busy cutting hair or something.
No.
Didn't answer his phone.
No.
Oh, he wasn't?
No, it was. I mean, we were challenged. My authority was challenged that I didn't call him.
Yeah,
remember?
you were accused of not calling.
And then I took a screenshot where I had called him and sent it to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was at this place where I know there's no cell service." Exactly.
Well, that he just busted himself, which tells me he does not listen to the end of Mike the Baptist, because he was right here live on the air with your phone
I
trying
think
to
his
call
wife
him.
was telling him.
No.
His wife, who's a loyal listener.
She's a very loyal listener. Yep. She's coming in to join us someday.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if she knows that or not.
Well, she does now.
Yeah. But anyway. Okay, Jason, strawberries.
They are native to Europe, Asia, North America, and South America.
So they might have been there, because what I had read in researching that question is that there were
Maybe.
references to a fruit that could have been
Yeah.
like a creeping vine, which strawberries do. You know, they sister plants and all.
Well, so did cantaloupe.
Well, I'd like to have some cantaloupe. Now that you mention that,
One of my favorite.
I've been on a sorbet kick. I've been making sorbet like out of watermelon and stuff all summer. And I just got thinking a couple of days ago, I need to try some cantaloupe. That would be really good. Sorbet's easy to make too, by the way.
And then
One of
it's
my
like
favorite
ice water.
fruit.
Well, that's Italian ice is basically water, but sorbet is juice. So you use juice, sugar, water, lemon juice. It's a richer. It's really good. I'm hooked. Okay, great Inny Rowdy questions. Take a break. Come back. Tell you bye.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
You know, this is just fun. I don't know any other way to describe it. And like we said countless times, if you're a Christian, you ain't having fun.
Something's wrong.
Something wrong. So have some fun. You are now free to roam about the planet. Something like that.
What if they were roaming while they were listening to this?
You can do that.
Just keep what you're doing.
Just pay attention, you know. Keep your hands on the wheel.
Don't flip anybody off.
That's right. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Try not to. Jason Ricciardi,
What's up?
good to see you again. Always nice
good to be here.
talk to you. Have fun watching your brain work. It's
The smoke
entertaining.
coming out.
Yeah. It goes up and it comes down. It's just fun to watch. But anyway, HT, always a pleasure, my friend.
Glad to help make this podcast great.
You're making it great. And my cap, I don't know if you've noticed, my cap says "Make podcast great again."
But doesn't that assume that this podcast was once great and then fell off and then now it's great again?
Yes.
Wouldn't it? I think this podcast has just been great.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah,
I fished for that. If you notice right there at the end, I fished for that and you came through.
I did. You're welcome.
It is a lot of fun. If you're listening or watching, thanks. It's a lot of fun. I do have a challenge for you, though. We need to grow. I'm really bad about asking to grow, but we need to grow. If you're listening or watching, share this with somebody else. There are some little messages in there that might be interesting to somebody. But we need your help in the world of social media, internet, and all that. I'm understanding now that you have to grow, and the way you do that is get other people to share, link, whatever those terms are. But anyway, we need your help, so throw us out there.
Catch Jason saying some weird phrase and snapshot that and send it to all your
and
friends.
send it, because he will say something.
Yeah.
And you too. And I might drop one in once in a while. So you never know.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Remember, folks, we're all just Christians.
Try not to flip people off.
Exactly.
Or
cuss. Either one. Don't do either one. Okay, see you next time.
Mike the Baptist